Good morning, LinkedIn family. It's time for another Coffee with Bob. I am loving doing these. I got speaking to a lot of new people. Lorie Marrero. See, I told you I would mess that up. Lorie Marrero is a relatively new connection of mine, and I love introducing her to everybody here. If you're not connected to Lorie, I highly recommend that you connect, follow her, and definitely engage with her. It only took me I think 2 of her posts to totally fall in love with what she's doing. So she's got a great following out there. Highly recommend Lorie and what she's doing. Lorie, you're a leadership coach, which I think is very much needed in the world today. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Well, this is a new role for me. So I've been independent for a long time, and I just accepted a partnership with this firm, Solid Leaders, who's been around for 30 something years.
Wow.
So I feel very lucky to get to learn the Yoda ways of the founder. And but yeah, we do executive coaching, leadership coaching, career coaching, onboarding into a new role coaching, which is exactly what I'm doing right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I get to lead the new assessments business, which I have a gift for your listeners as well. We are doing Solid Insights, which is taking assessments and then putting them together in a way that's usable every day instead of putting them in a file folder, never looking at them again. Lots to say grace over.
Wow. Very cool. So, so now you went from being independent to working for somebody. What's that been like?
Well, it is a business partnership, so I'm still, I have that entrepreneur feeling about the whole thing. But yes, it is different and fun. And that's what I wanted. And I think, partly it is, I just got tired of being alone after all those years. I was like, I really want to be part of a team and build something together instead of the buck stops here all the time.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just did a podcast that I got interviewed for a podcast that's coming out in December. And one of the questions they asked me, that you were in consulting for 15 years, what made you want to go work for somebody else? I gave them the same answer. I just got tired of being alone. I wanted to be on a team.
Yes.
So that leads to that's what do you tell someone who's used to being out on his own, right? And being the one-man shop, and then goes to leading a team, right? What's the best advice that you can give to someone who kind of goes into that leadership role and suddenly has a team underneath him or her?
The best advice is the classic, know thyself. The better you are self-aware and you know what your limitations are and you can communicate those to your team and be committed to work on those, the better manager you're going to be. And, it's so much about relationships. And so you've got to know your team as well and just understand your styles. And here's the rub. If you're building the right team, you're bringing people that are very different than you are.
Right.
So it's hard because you may not understand the way an engineer thinks if you are the salesperson. And it's that bridging of those different personalities and types that makes the team strong because you want that diversity in your team.
Right. Yeah. I'm a big believer in servant leadership. I've read all the books and it's just the way I've lived my life, raising kids, and even doing my own consulting. But a lot of people talk about being servant leaders, but they're not, right? It's just a good buzzword for them. How do you coach people like that who already think they are the servant leader already, when in reality, they're really not?
Well, as in all things like that, when somebody has a blind spot, it is a delicate process to reveal that to them. And, my mentor, Daniel, who I'm working with now, he says that he often asks the person this question: are you okay with me doing surgery without anesthesia? Before he gives them the big, direct, blunt advice or feedback. But, you do have to approach that delicately, but I think it's just getting that person to define service and what does that look like and getting them to switch roles in their head, put themselves in the other person's shoes. And one of the tools that we use at Solid is a 360 assessment. So some teams like to have that, the target person who's being assessed and then interview everyone around them. And we do that for people and then have an anonymous aggregated report given. And sometimes that's the way that we're able to finally break through with the blind spots. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. One of the things that I do with my teams and have done for a while, even prior to me being employed full time, and even when I was on my own, I would go to a client and I'd want them to review me. Give me a just a personal
Yes.
review, not one I'm going to post as a way of sales, but how I interact with you and how I work with you. And I did that for this team that I'm with now recently, and not just with the team, but I go to the other senior leaders as well too and ask them to review me, because I think it's critical to know that sort of thing and in how you're interacting with them.
So what I find is the very best leaders are the ones that want that feedback. So Bob, you've got it. I mean, that's what you have to ask for, and you have to be ready to hear it
Mm-hmm.
and actually ready to make changes around that. And
Yeah.
that's not always easy for people.
Yeah. When you're doing, tell me a little bit about how you work with career assessments. You mentioned that in the beginning. That's interesting to me. What is that, and how are you working with people with that?
Yeah. So if they come to us with, for career coaching, we have an entire program that we put them through that's several weeks long. And it starts with just know thyself. We do a lot of assessments and we interpret those. And then we pull the superpower qualities out of those assessments and really help you become aware of what they are. Then what we do is we take those qualities and we help you write what we call silver bullets, which is just, it's a little story. You've heard the interview technique, tell me about a time, right? So,
Right.
all right, you have this particular superpower. Tell me a little story about when did that superpower come into play and how did that work out, So we help you build all that, build a resume, and really understand networking and all kinds of things in that program.
Wow. Awesome. I mean, it sounds like you guys got a complete package that you're offering to people.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I'm so happy.
Well, it's that connection that you make, right? I mean, for me, that's why I love doing what I'm doing right now, as part of just my regular job too. But is the connection that I make and the people that I get to know, and it just helps me gain even more knowledge.
Mhm.
You and I, well, me more so than you, I think, are at a different point in our lives, right? What kind of advice do you give to those young leaders that are out there, or to the kids that are starting getting going? What's the best advice that you give to them from a coaching perspective?
Hmm. Wow, that's a broad, big question. Let me think about that for a second. So, if they're wanting to progress in their careers, they need to be self-aware, like we've been talking about, but they also need to set personal and professional goals and work on their professional development. And also, there's this old advice we've all heard that I love to give all the time, and that is dress for the level that you want to be. And what I see so much is that the younger generations below me, I'm in my 50s. I'm not afraid to say, they're so casual that they don't realize that first impression really
Right.
matters. Still, even if everyone thinks it doesn't, it's great if position yourself, because what we're really talking about is personal branding. And so if you want to be seen as a director, manager, VP, whatever you're trying to do, you got to look the part. And I really believe that that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, I agree 100%. I love the phrase personal branding, right? For me, I've only just started doing that, which is why I've been doing the coffee with Bob's and stuff like that. But is
Mhm.
personal branding something you guys coach as well?
Yeah, that's actually my specialty on the team. And so
Awesome.
what's funny is I know Bob, you and I have just got to know each other, but I have spent a long career being an influencer before there was a name for that. It was back in 2009, when Twitter just started and it was kind of new and I have 200 followers. Oh my goodness, kind of thing. So that's been my career. In the past, I was a home organization and home office productivity expert. And I had a membership site and had a really large following for the time,
Hmm.
and a Wall Street Journal bestseller and all of that. So I've spent my career understanding personal branding deeply and building that, being a spokesperson for some major brands like Goodwill and Rubbermaid and Staples and Microsoft. And it was because I built the personal brand in a way that they wanted to, latch onto.
Wow, that's incredible. Lorie, thank you so much for being with me. I learned
Yes,
so much, and we're going to have to do this again because I think there's a lot that we can probably talk about.
I agree, Bob. And I'm